but it varies. We have people that come to us that maybe from an outward appearance don't look like they would be unhealthy or have like insulin resistance, but they do. And so our bodies, when we do this, they know what we need, whether it's weight, whether it's improvement in metabolic health, maybe it's skin. I mean, there's just um, fasting is just really cool mechanism of our bodies.
Financial independence,
freedom,
financial picture,
independent financially,
financial future,
financial freedom and wealth,
financial independence.
Get your fill, financial independence and long life. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Get Your Fill, Financial Independence and Long Life, where we explore ways to achieve those two goals. And, we do focus a lot on the financial independence side, but I'm very excited that today we're focusing on long life with Ashley Bizzell. She is an RN and an RD, I'm reading ahead, right? So RD, LNDN, CDCES, which I don't know what any of those are. She's a registered dietitian and a certified diabetes care and educational specialist, which I suspect is what those things mean. With over 15 years of experience, she's a clinical nutrition manager at Nutra Health, and she oversees clinical nutrition coaching, curriculum development, and training for global partners. She works closely with leadership to advance type 2 diabetes remission initiatives. Ashley, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me, Christine. And you did great with that. I know there was lots of little letters afterwards, but yes, so I'm a dietitian and a diabetes educator. And that other little credential in there is just my licensure in the state that I'm in. So I know it adds on a lot, but you did well.
Well, it's the afternoon, so my reading ability just goes downhill as we go throughout the day. I was reading contracts earlier today, so I'm lucky I can even talk anymore.
That's what that
Ashley,
cup of coffee or tea is for. So
yeah, exactly. Unfortunately, I don't do caffeine, so there's just no hope for me.
Yeah, good for you. That's fantastic. Yes, well, I appreciate you having me. Nutra Health is in the business of longevity and increasing health span. So I hope today that we can talk more about that and how you can achieve that for yourself.
Absolutely. First, I'm wondering how you found this field, how you became interested in it, or what drew you to Nutra, or just this particular part of healthcare in general.
Yes, yeah, great question. So I've been a dietitian 20 years. I'm just outside of the Charlotte, North Carolina area, and I started out my career in outpatient. And so typically in outpatient care, you're working with people with diabetes or heart diseases or people that are just looking to lose weight, sometimes some allergies and things like that. But then moved into just the traditional hospital acute care setting. And I spent the bulk of my career there in critical care and working with patients that are in end stages of chronic disease. And really in 2020, somehow due to kind of having to with my children at home and having to navigate all the changes during that time, I really felt led to go back to outpatient and was kind of tired of seeing kind of the end stages. Even though I enjoyed what I was doing, I just needed something different and moved into kind of the telehealth spaces that really took off, in 2020. And I've never looked back. So I've been with Nutra Health a little over 2 years and was really drawn to this company because it has such a unique tool, which we'll dive into later, but this food is medicine nutrition tool to help people improve their metabolic health and improve diabetes and a whole host of other things too that we can dive into. But my interest was in diabetes. So seeing the opportunity to work with people through telehealth, which helps you connect on so many different ways with all different types of people and be able to see them make changes and see progress, see people go into diabetes remission. I mean, that's really kind of what led me here. And then now I still have some of my own members. I call them members, but patients. And then I do global training too. So it's been a wonderful opportunity to kind of expand my skill set, but do some of the things I'm just most passionate about. And that's really seeing change, increasing that health span or longevity, as we mentioned earlier.
Absolutely. Well, since you brought up diabetes, let's just talk briefly about that. I know I have friends who have been caregiving for their parents and have got
Mm.
them off insulin just through a really careful diet and things like that. But I don't think that is the norm. What do you find? What kinds of things do you do when you encounter people with type 2 diabetes?
Yes, you're absolutely right. It's not the norm. In fact, just this year, we were at the American Diabetes Association conference in Chicago, sharing our real world data because there's a growing burden on the patient, on our healthcare system. So talking about this financial burden too of people with aging that have diabetes, and it puts them at such a greater risk for other comorbidities too, with
Yeah.
heart health that impacts that, nerve health. And most people with type 2 diabetes, at least 60% are on 2 or more medications. And so it's just this kind of cascading impact of how it um, side effects and the burden of keeping up with those medicines. And so it feels like the goal in type 2 diabetes right now is driving down that A1C, which is your average blood glucose over 3 months, whatever the cost may be, whether that's polypharmacy, um, that's kind of what they're driving down. But what we're trying to do here is really not be Band-Aid healthcare and treating the symptoms but really treating root causes of age-related diseases, and diabetes is considered one of those. So we dig a little deeper, try to treat the root causes using lifestyle medicine too, to help reduce the burden, for help reduce the need for medication. So if we can help somebody improve their metabolic health and decrease medication while improving their A1C, that's a win. That's really what we're
Absolutely.
trying to do.
Absolutely. And how do you go about that?
Yes, great question. So we have this tool, the fasting mimicking diet. And I don't know, are you familiar with that, Christine?
I'm not.
Okay. So I'm sure you're familiar with the term fasting.
I've done a lot
And
of fasting in my life. I'm a big
yes.
fan of fasting, actually.
Oh, fantastic. Now, do you do intermittent fasting or prolonged fasting?
All of the above. I
Okay.
try to do intermittent fasting pretty much on a regular basis, but I've
Okay.
also done up to 7-day fast, and I've also done I mean, I call it a dry fast, but I think it has another name. So I've done that for four
Yeah.
days as well. I've done juice
Oh,
cleanses. I just
that's
feel like
fantastic.
I feel better
Yeah.
after that. I really feel the impact of it, and I know it's not something that's easy or fun to do, but I definitely, once you've done it, you're just
Yeah.
like, that was
Well,
so
that's, I mean, I love hearing that you just feel better, probably mental clarity, probably just kind of changes your relationship with food. But yes, fasting is just really part of nature, but it's one of those tools that's underutilized in today's society of instant everything. We can DoorDash anything to our house at any
good.
moment. Um, but a lot of times we associate fasting with religious groups or just out of access to food. And over
True.
time, our ancestors had to adapt, and our bodies are miraculous, and the things that they can do, that they know how to do without us doing, just innate abilities. And when we do fasting, whether it's intermittent or time restricted eating, or that's, I kind of put those in a similar category. Um, there's benefits. There's metabolic benefits, there can be weight benefits, but it's that prolonged fasting that you mentioned you've even done several times. That's where we see healthy aging. That's where we see cellular rejuvenation. And when I say prolonged, I really mean anything greater than 48 hours. And that's where we see something really special called autophagy. And autophagy, auto meaning self, phagy meaning eat, is really our body's ability to self clean. It's honestly our way of kind of turning on this recycling mechanism. And so there's so many benefits to reducing inflammation, improving gut function, as you mentioned, maybe some of the mental clarity and just feeling better overall. That happens when we allow our bodies to go through that process. Actually, in 2016, the Nobel Prize was awarded to Yoshinori Asumi for autophagy, the mechanisms behind it. And it's really cool because our bodies have these nutrient sensing pathways, things like IGF-1, TOR, PKA. And when we don't eat, or, we're having very, very, very small amounts of calories, but most of the time people do like a water fast, or you said you've done some dry fasting.
Yeah.
We're not triggering those nutrient sensing pathways. And when we do that, we allow our body to rest, and it kind of goes into like survival mode, cleanup mode. And it's our body's forced to, it is a little bit of a stress on the body, but it's okay. It's forced to eat away at things that are like misfolded proteins and, mitochondria, cellular components that are just not healthy,
Yeah.
and kind of eats away those and cleans them up. And then as you begin eating again, it can kind of rebuild new cells as it sends signals to the body to grow again, and new cells. And we can fuel with good foods to kind of optimize that rejuvenation process and renewal process. So really, the fasting mimicking technology, I'm going to call it technology because that word sounds a little cooler than diet, was was
It's a
really,
very unpopular word.
yes, it is, exactly. But it was really created out of a need for innovation in the space of fasting, as people discovered like all the health benefits. How can we do this and make it a little more user friendly? For people to be able to get those benefits, but also the safety concerns. So, Christine, I can tell you're disciplined, based on you being able to do these prolonged fasts already. I don't even know if I could do more than a 48-hour water fast. But the fasting mimicking diet was created in the way it's kind of like stealth technology. It allows your body to get just enough nutrition that it doesn't recognize that it's eating. And so it can go into this cleanup mode. And some people
Interesting.
say, Ashley, is that just because it's low calorie? But it's not about the calories. It is low calorie and we kind of ease you in, but it's about specific macronutrient composition that evades triggering those nutrient sensing pathways so that you can go into cleanup mode. It's really fascinating, really cool.
Yeah, definitely. I know that I was very surprised when I did the dry fast because I actually found hadn't heard of it. I interviewed somebody who had done one, and
Yeah.
she was really raving about the benefits and the great things that had happened to her body afterwards. And I thought, well, that's kind of nuts. And so I looked it up and I, did my little Google doctor thing and
Mhm.
Dr. Google.
Yes.
I
Or
consulted Dr. Google.
Dr. Chat.
Yeah, exactly. Now, yeah, exactly. At that time it was Dr. Google. Now it's
Yeah.
Dr. Chat. So I said, okay, I'm going to try this thing. So I started off with I did a juice cleanse for 3 days, and then I did a water fast for a day or two. And then I did the dry fast, and I thought, oh, I'm going to be, you know, just the way I am when I don't drink enough water in regular life, right? My skin would be dry and stuff like that. But
Yes.
my skin was the softest it's ever been. It was the weirdest, most surprising. And I was also surprised. I thought, well, I won't have to visit the bathroom at all. That
Uh-huh.
was not the case at all. I was just like,
Yeah.
my body was just really cleansing and flushing all kinds of bad stuff out of my body. It was a really interesting experience.
Yeah. When you do the 5-day fast, of course, we utilize it in programs, which we can talk more about later. So um, but when you go through the 5 days, that first day is truly a transition day. And I would say it's around 1,100 calories, but it's real food. So I always like to stress that to people, like
Yeah.
you're eating real food, things like olives and almond kale crackers and soups and honey nut bars, things like that. But it's 1,100 calories. So that day you're really transitioning into fasting. Day 2 through 5 are right around 800, just a little above that calories, that you go from burning glucose as the main source of fuel as you do um, prior to fasting, to burning fat and ketones, those fatty acids. And that's where a lot of that transition begins. And then we give you a couple days of that. So even though the prolonged fast isn't about ketosis, it's about autophagy for us, and that's cellular rejuvenation renewal. You are in a mild state of ketosis during these days. But as you mentioned with your skin, it is a total body, cellular rejuvenation. We can't pick certain areas. We can't say we're just going to work on diabetes here, or we're
Right.
really just interested. The body knows what it needs to do, where it needs repair, and that kind of thing. But our skin is our largest organ. And so we have studies. We've got so many studies. There's so many clinical trials, a lot of NIH funding behind the fasting mimicking diet, but that show improvement in skin texture because the cells are more hydrated. And
Yeah.
so that's very likely why you felt that more buttery skin, is that it was, the texture was improved. So I've even seen some of the fine lines. Women love to hear this. Some of the fine lines looked lessened after some repeat fast, and even, skin glowing just a bit more. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Interesting. So is this sort of you're supervising people to help them through that? Because it's quite a reduction for most people to be on an 1100 calorie
Yes.
and then an 800 calorie diet, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it is. So we have kind of two set programs. So our company has several divisions, and I'll explain those. We have Prolon, which is our consumer division for anybody that maybe don't have any comorbidities, but you're really interested in doing some fasting for longevity, for health span. It's a great place. You can purchase one of the kits. They have some group coaching. There's some assistance there to give you some guidance. But if you're somebody that has a cardiometabolic condition, we have a great program called the cardiometabolic program, hence the name. But really for weight loss, for high blood pressure, for maybe you have pre-diabetes, and you also know that you need accountability. It's an opportunity to work with a dietitian coach that's just yours, that you meet with face to face twice a month, that kind of is really your guide, and how many fasts you should do. Everything's very personalized to whatever your goals and needs are, since everybody's different. And we do labs in the programs. There's baseline labs that you get to look at your biomarkers. The RD will work with you on how many cycles of fasting are appropriate to reach your goals. And then we do labs every couple of cycles to help track your progress. The other cool thing we do too, we send a body composition scale, because our research shows that there's reduction in visceral fat, the fat that we hold around our middle, but preservation of muscle mass. And that is really key here. Something that I think is a huge differentiator between our product compared to a lot of things that are out there to help with weight loss, is that muscle's preserved, and we're not using medicine to do it. We're using food. We're not using anything with negative side effects. We're using food. So it truly is a nourished fast. So that metabolic program where you get to work with a coach. And then we have our diabetes specific program, which we kind of talked about earlier, that it's more comprehensive. We do more cycles of fasting, but you still have an RD coach. There's still labs. There's still lots of great library content. You can text on a 24/7 basis. There's a lot of good touch points there and support, but there's also physician support too. So if you're on medicines and you don't know what to do with those when you're fasting, and there's certain medicines that need to be adjusted for your safety, to prevent low blood pressure or low blood sugar, especially in that population of people
Yeah.
with diabetes, that there's support there as well. So we've got programs for anybody, Christine. We even have another company under our umbrella called Nutrition for Longevity that just sends ready-made meals that are balanced, that kind of follow along with the Mediterranean diet. So even if you don't want to do any fasting, there's great nutrition available to you, especially if you're not a cook, or if you're just cooking for one and not as motivated to cook. Whatever the needs are, we've got nutrition support for you.
Excellent. What kinds of things could typically happen with someone who has diabetes, who's on diabetes medication, and then when they start this type of program?
Yes, that's a great question. I was in a meeting earlier actually sharing kind of a testimonial from a patient of mine who he joined our program. He's 68, well educated, was diagnosed with diabetes, but I think he was just busy and didn't really take it seriously, until his A1C climbed up to 8.5. And then I think it hit him. He was like, I can't live in denial anymore. This is real. It's affecting other areas in my body. And so he got serious and started watching his diet, started doing some more exercise, started taking his medication as it was prescribed. And he was on metformin, just like 1,000 milligrams a day. And he had some other issues too, erectile dysfunction, reflux, obesity, high blood pressure. And but he was doing good. He was making changes. In fact, on his own, he was able to bring his A1C down from 8.5 to 7.2. But then it just stopped. He kind of plateaued and found out about us, reached out, and he and I started working together twice a month. And we started implementing the fasting mimicking diet. He was doing 5 days of the fast each month, and he did about 6 months consecutively. So 5 days each month for 6 months, 30 days of effort in however many days that is, 6 times 30, 180 days. And he saw fantastic results. In fact, after just 3 cycles, we got his A1C down from 7.2 to 5.5. So that's not even in the pre-diabetes range anymore. And that was just by incorporating fasting. We talked about strength training. We talked about sleep hygiene. We talked about stress management, all the different kind of lifestyle pillars of health that are vital for our longevity. And his physician that was overseeing his medication, he was like, Steve, you're doing fantastic. You can come off of your medication. Why don't we do the next 3 cycles without anything? And he didn't tell the doctor this, but he was a little scared to do that completely. So he kind of self-decreased it to 500 milligrams instead of the full amount, had labs again 3 months later. His A1C was still at 5.5 despite half the medication. And then he finally was like, you know what? Okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to stop taking this. And he has been in remission. I'll never forget when the doctor emailed me and emailed Steve and was like, Steve, you're in remission. You've been off medication now 3 months. You're doing fantastic. And in fact, he's still with me. He still does quarterly fast now. We only meet quarterly because he's done great. He doesn't need to do so many continuous rounds. And his A1C was 5.3 at his most recent lab. And so it just goes to show that I think it builds confidence in the individual to have that support, to see these numbers decreasing, and empowers you that you can have some control. I think a lot of times people, they think, oh, I'm labeled with this type 2 diabetes, or I'm labeled with this, and that's what I'm destined to have. That's what my family had. It runs in my family,
Yeah,
and you kind of give
absolutely.
up. We hear it all the time, but you can take action. And these programs are a great way to do that with a supportive system.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up confidence. It's an interesting side effect that people might not expect, but when you think that, like you say, that you don't have control over what you eat, that you just like, well,
Yeah.
this is just who I am. I have these cravings. I can't do anything about it. And then all of a sudden you follow an eating plan, especially something that's sort of like a fast mimicking diet, which is
Yeah.
it requires you to change your lifestyle a bit, right? You're not going to be able to, I mean, you could go out to eat, but you're bringing your own food, right? So you have
Yes.
to make these lifestyle modifications that maybe you didn't think that you could do, right? You didn't think
Yeah.
that and it allows you to, I think, to change your relationship with food, right? It's not,
Mhm.
if I'm not, food's not controlling me, I'm controlling what I eat. And
Right.
that's key to people. Do you find that,
Yes, absolutely. Sometimes we have to reframe, just kind of how you did right then when you were talking about how you speak to yourself. And so we coach our members too. There's lots of food noise all around us. And some people are more impacted by that than others, but training yourself to say, you know, it's not that I can't eat today. I don't get to eat this week because I'm fasting.
yeah,
It's I'm choosing to fast this week with nourishment because it makes me feel better. My labs are improving, or maybe even, for I can think of a lady I spoke to earlier this morning, and she was just having some challenges with nighttime snacking. Just the traditional, I want to decompress at the end of the day, watch a TV show, and what goes hand in hand with TV, a lot of times snacking. Even if you're not looking at it, you're just grabbing and throwing it in, shoveling it in your mouth. Um, and we're just trying to talk through that. Like, okay, let's think through that. Let's be mindful. Do you really feel hunger? Do you and then sometimes it's working with people on maybe some appropriate swaps, because if you truly are hungry, I think it's okay to eat, but we can talk through what are some good choices.
Yeah.
But first thinking through, am I really hungry? Maybe I just need to drink a glass of water.
Yeah.
Maybe I need to change my environment, step outside for a moment, and then think, am I really truly hungry? Do I need this?
Yeah.
Um, and then act on it. But yeah, just having, I think, somebody to listen to you and help give you some practical tips. I mean, these are not crazy scientific things, but we need reminders. We're human. We need reminders. So that encouragement is a huge component of success.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I do, there are certain things that things that I like that are like a guilty pleasure, but in the summertime, I'm like, that is winter food. I'm not going to eat that kind of food in the
Winter foods, yes.
summertime when I have, less clothing and right.
Uh-huh.
And I think that mindset is like, it's not like I'll never eat that again. It's just like,
Yes.
not this season, right? Not right now. And the longer you push things off, that's what I found with fasting. Like, we'll just do it, I'll just do it till breakfast tomorrow. I'll just do it till, well,
Yeah.
I might as well just go till dinner, right? And it
Yes.
just becomes a way just to kick the can down the road so that you allow yourself to do it a little bit longer, right? Like, oh,
Uh-huh.
I'm sitting here now and maybe I'm a little hungry, but I can just sit here, I'll just wait, I'll
Yes.
watch the end of this show and then maybe I'll get a snack, right? And then next day, oh, it's time for bed anyway, so forget it. I'm not going to eat now, right? It just,
Yes.
it's
Yes.
like little mind games, right?
It is. It
Yeah,
is. That's
it's
like me with
helpful.
running, Christine, because I am active. I can run if I'm playing tennis. I can run if I'm playing soccer, but if I'm just running to run, I'm not as
Boring.
motivated. And so it's kind of like, okay, just get to that mailbox. Okay, just get to the, that driveway or whatever. But you do it. And then you get to where you can, and then you don't think about it. In fact, with fasting, if people have some challenges in the beginning, the dietitian's there to support them, but they find after several times they do become more metabolically flexible. And so they more easily go from burning glucose to burning fat, and it gets easier
Yeah.
with each cycle. So the other thing I think that's really important, as I was talking about autophagy and the purpose of the fasting mimicking diet, but what you eat in between is important. Now, a lot of our research is done without any changes to diet in between. But in the program, and we see people that come from all different ways of eating, and there's no shame in any of that, but we work on how can we maybe move towards a few better habits. We do encourage more of a pescatarian vegetarian diet, so still kind of in that Mediterranean diet um, way, which honestly has been around the longest, has the most uh, research for cardiometabolic health is sustainable because you do get to eat some carbs, you do get healthy fats, you do get lots of fruits and vegetables
Yeah.
and have some protein foods. And so it's something that you can continue for life. So there's nothing crazy in between. And we're not anti-chocolate. Otherwise, I couldn't do it. We're not anti-dessert. But it's all about kind of learning how um, to listen to your body and know what are some good things. So, as you do the fast, you have a greater appreciation for food. A lot of my members will tell me that, like at the end of it, you don't want to go eat an extra large cheese pizza with pepperoni because you've invested that time in your health and in your
Yeah.
body, and a lot of times you want to give it good nutrients afterwards.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a financial investment in your health.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And it's interesting as you do make changes, as you were saying, I noticed that, I mean, when you eat something sweet, for example, it's really
Mm.
only that first bite, right? And I feel like the whole rest of the time, because like one of my little guilty things is a whoopie pie. There's a place here. There's only one
Uh-huh.
company whose I like, but it's like two little chocolate
Is that the
cakes
cream? Is that the
with cream
cream
in the middle.
center?
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so, they make really good ones. And I would take a bite, and like that one bite is just so delicious. Like, it's sweet and it's chocolatey and it's yummy. But then the whole rest of the time, you're just like, you're trying to recapture that
Yes.
deliciousness of that first bite. So now I'll buy one and I cut it into quarters, and the other three quarters go in the freezer. And every time I eat one, it's that same wonderful sensation. And I
Yeah.
don't, and you're like, great, now I want to save this for later because then I can have it again, right? And you're just eating a
Mhm.
quarter of what you would have eaten before. But it's so much more pleasurable.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, food is one of life's enjoyments. And so,
Yeah.
not stripping that away from you completely, but learning how to, um, address the need. And whether that craving is for the whoopie pie or whatever it might be, you're absolutely right. Usually those first couple of bites are when you've satisfied
Yeah.
whatever that taste for you were looking for. And then a lot of times we just eat because it's there, or we don't
Yeah.
want to waste, or whatever it might be. And so the enjoyment piece is not part of the continuation. And so I think it's a great way of not feeling deprived.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as your clients, I would imagine as they start to become more friends with food, that
Mhm.
that idea of like, even that you're not supposed to have this thing, right? I shouldn't be eating this, and now my whole diet's ruined for the day, and right, that whole cycle that people get into,
Yes.
as they start to make friends with food and feel like, okay, I can control what I eat, that whole relationship just becomes so much easier, right? And more
Mhm.
healthy. And I don't know, I
Mhm.
think that's key. I hear, I have a snack thing here. I run a co-working space is one of my endeavors, and there's like snack area, so there's
Yeah.
always chips, and I never look at them, right? Once in
Mhm.
a while I might say, oh, I feel like something a little salty, but that's like the real. And people say, oh, how can you be around that stuff all day? I'm like, there's plenty here if I ever want
Yeah.
it,
It
but
loses its,
yeah, that's appeal.
appeal, absolutely. Yeah, it becomes, and that's a tool too to use, how to see something on a regular basis, and it just doesn't look as good as it used to. So, yeah, absolutely. We work with all different, types of people, Christine. Like, we have people that enroll in our programs just from coming to our website directly because they just feel empowered. They want to take control of their health. Um, and, we can help people that way. But we also have a lot of physicians, practitioners, um, you know, doctors, endocrinologists that refer to us, even health coaches. If since they can't de-escalate medications, they can refer to us, and we can use our telehealth group. And then we work with a lot of companies too, organizations that use this kind of as part of wellness programs for their employees, because it really is something for everybody. As I mentioned, whether you're just looking to optimize your health, whether you are working on a particular condition, whether you have something like type 2 diabetes. I mean, there's something for everybody that we could use. So, and sometimes just like I mentioned, support, just
Yeah.
somebody to talk to bounce ideas off of, to get recipes from, or grocery list, or um, motivation to do some strength training, which is great for anybody, great for women. And just knowing where to begin, resources, that's huge.
Yeah, you're right. It's amazing how um, people are often just not educated on what's actually healthy,
Yes.
right? And what's actually decisions that they could make, where there might be two options and they'd probably equally enjoy each one, but they don't realize or don't understand what one would actually be the best for their body.
Hmm. And it's different for everybody, what your needs are based on your age and goals. And sometimes we have these kind of stigmas that if it's not high intensity exercise, I'm not exercising. If it's not low carb, it's not good for my blood sugar. We hear all kinds of things. And so it's easy for all those messages to get jumbled. And for many people, it just is overwhelmed. And then you're like, oh, I give up. It's too many things. You don't
Yeah.
even know where to start. And it's almost like paralysis from analysis. You
Yeah,
just get
exactly.
stuck.
So what does it look like when someone first comes to you or to your company when they first start working with you? How do you
Yes.
help them to discover what the best method is for them to use or whatever?
Sure. No, great question. So wherever you're coming from, whether it's your as an employee from your employer, or from a physician, or you just find out about us online, you call in, or you have a registration link on the website. You can go in and register and talk to one of our guides that kind of helps you figure out which is the best program for you. and then does kind of the onboarding, which is essentially just kind of getting some quick demographics, figuring out the right place to be, ordering your labs so we can get those baseline labs, because sometimes people haven't even had labs in a while and they don't know exactly where they are. And so that is a great tool, and you get assigned a coach, and all of that's done kind of online, easy in our EMR, our electronic medical record. And the coach reaches out and sets up telehealth visit with you. Typically, the first one is about 30 to 45 minutes, but that's because it's a time to get to know you a little bit, your background, what you do, what's a day in the life of Christine, what does she eat during the day, what does her exercise habits look like, sleep, medications, all those things. But even things like, what have you tried before that has worked for you, even if it was just temporary? What is, just trying to figure out what people are motivated by. And really, one of my favorite parts is to understand somebody's why. Maybe they say it's weight loss, or maybe they say it's to improve their health. But when you start talking to them, sometimes that why are things like, I just want to be able to sit on the floor with my grandkids and be able to play and get back up. I just want to be able to,
Exactly.
I want to be able to retire and then actually travel and have the health to do so. Like there's so many different, so it's nice to, in that first visit with your coach, to really figure out what is it that's really the driving motivator for you to live, not just about longevity, but healthier for longer so that
Yeah.
you can enjoy life. And so that's honestly my favorite question to ask people, because when there are challenges, that's what you want to bring back up and remind them. Like, remember, I know this is hard right now, but this is what you told me day one that you were hoping to achieve. And then you're like, yes, it is. That's exactly why I'm here. And so after that, we set up the time. If you're ready to do a fast, then we can go ahead and jump into that. We can educate you on what that looks like, give you tips and tricks to make sure that it's successful for you. But some people aren't ready to go into a 5-day fast. In fact, we have a whole portfolio of other types of products too that are fasting products. So if you're somebody that wants to kind of tiptoe in and maybe just do a 1-day reset, you can do that. It's essentially like the first day of the fast. Or maybe you just want to implement some time restricted eating and kind of do a 5-2. We've got product support there. Or just in the morning, maybe you're like, ooh, that sounds really hard. What if I just start eating a little later, but you get a bar in the morning that gives you some nourishment and helps you to have a little bit of a longer fast. So there's so many different tools and ways that we individualize this to optimize your goals. But as I mentioned, we always meet twice a month, and we even have some group coaching. If somebody that's appealing to you and you love that kind of camaraderie and sense of community, that's there, and people really enjoy that too. So lots of different ways to get you the experience that you need. So
Excellent. Now, is this the sort of thing that would be covered by someone's insurance typically, or is it self-pay normally?
So at the moment, it's self-pay. We are very actively working to get this covered by insurance, we're so close. I mean, I can't wait, because that's such a huge milestone. But
Yeah.
the programs themselves are just a couple years old now. The fasting mimicking diet's been around a while, but we're so close. But we do, we can do FSA, HSA that can be utilized for this. Some of the employer groups that we work with, they kind of work out deals for their employees, so there's some options there that we can use. Some of the nutrition for longevity meals that I was talking about are covered by certain insurance companies too. So I'm very hopeful that in the near future that will be covered.
I
So,
hope so too, because it's always just drugs, 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 and it's
yes,
ridiculous. It's not
yes,
even
it
the best
is.
option.
It is. And so it's really nice. And I always have to say this too. We are not anti-medication here. Even when I meet with people for the first time, I don't want them to feel bad that they're on any medicine. If they're on 20 medicines, sometimes we need it, and there are people who will not be able to come off, and that is okay. But if there's ways that we can help you improve your quality of life, come off of some of those if we can. I mean, that's what we're trying to do. So, and sometimes that's the ultimate driver for why people come. Sometimes it's just weight loss. But I have to stress that the benefits of fasting are independent of weight loss. It's
Yes.
really about the cellular rejuvenation, and the weight loss a lot of times is kind of a, I'll call it a happy side effect of the fast. But it varies. We have people that come to us that maybe from an outward appearance don't look like they would be unhealthy or have like insulin resistance. But they do. And so our bodies, when we do this, they know what we need, whether it's weight, whether it's improvement in metabolic health, maybe it's skin. I mean, there's just fasting is just really cool mechanism of our bodies. It's an innate ability, and we just have to give it the opportunity.
Absolutely. I agree 1000%. And I'm really excited that you're doing all this research and helping to bring that more into the public fold, because you're right. Every religion, every major religion has a fasting history, right? But it just still has some sort of a stigma that people think it's weird not to eat.
Hmm. I know it
I'm not
is.
never going to eat again.
I know it is. Another thing, Christine, I didn't mention is that, we have a lot of clinical trials that have been done. We're published in a lot of medical journals, um, and in areas like cancer and in areas like autoimmune disease. In fact, this really kind of started like studying aging and IGF-1 really for cancer first. And I have no doubt that in the next couple of years, there'll be kind of medical arms like ours in the metabolic health and diabetes space that are programmed, but specifically with cancer
Yeah,
or specifically with autoimmune. I have people tell me all the time, they feel better, their joints feel better, they have more energy. In fact, we have a study, and this one is so cool to me because it was a 12-month study, and I think it was published in the Diabetologia, but it was showing a patient group that had diabetes. They did a fast each month for 12 months. And one of the things that they found after 12 months was that people's activity improved by like 4 hours a week. Not exercise necessarily, not 30 minutes at the gym or anything, but just their overall activity. And it's because their muscle mass stayed high.
yeah,
They felt better. And so they were just moving more throughout the day. And
exactly.
movement is so important. We're especially in this day and age, we're so sedentary. In fact, I myself working at my desk, I have to be intentional. I have a standing desk. I try to get up and walk. My watch reminds me to do all the things. Um, but that's so cool that it was just something that was noted because people felt good.
Yeah,
So you don't have to associate fasting with losing muscle or being
no,
weaker. You can lose the weight, but stay strong and feel good. So,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I actually read a study when I was looking into the dry fasting. I read some studies about people who are actually having chemotherapy, how much
Mhm.
their symptoms were reduced if they were fasting.
Yes, yes. I can't wait for that to really, be used. And I know it's there's a lot of research studies going on or clinical trials, excuse me. But it protects the cell. It keeps the healthy cells strong because
Yeah,
chemo is hard on the body.
yeah,
And it's hard on every cell, whether it's damaged, diseased, or healthy. And so, for this to help make these like healthy soldiers stronger, that's really kind of what fasting does. It's very
absolutely.
fascinating.
Absolutely. So, Ashley, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed talking with you. I think it's important now that I ask you how
Yes.
people can get in touch with you if they've been listening to this and thinking, maybe I should give this a try.
Yes, I would love that. Well, first of all, you're welcome to email me. I'll just spell it out, ABIZZEL at L hyphen Nutra, Nutra.com. You can go online to our website at L Nutra Health, or L Nutra. It will direct you there. You could go to prolonlife.com, and you can find out about the programs there as well. So there's multiple ways to get to us. I'd be more than happy to answer any specific questions, but it's a great place to come and try fasting. Like I said, whether you're healthy and just looking to optimize, or if you have something that you're really working on, or maybe some prevention too. fasting for prevention or as a therapeutic intervention.
Absolutely. Excellent. So, Ashley, is there anything you wish I would have asked you or anything that you want to make sure that people take away from this conversation?
Well, I told you early on, Christine, I feel like this is a success if you try it yourself. So that's what I wish you asked me, like, where do I sign up right now? So I'm hoping that's what I'm hoping for. But let me think if there was anything else. Um, let's see. We talked about kind of diet in between. Um, I think I might have mentioned this, but our real world data, it was really an honor to be able to present to the American Diabetes Association this year because, a lot of people that have found us first are people that tend to be kind of early adopters. They're into food as medicine already, or they're into lifestyle medicine and kind of follow along with different podcasts or different TV personalities that talk about those things. But to see us kind of move into even more traditional medicine, to see that acceptance as fasting
That's
as a
huge.
tool for intervention was just really special. And I hope that we continue to move in those areas too, and coverage so that there's access to everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I agree. I'm definitely a big fan of what you're doing.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I appreciate you having me here today, and would be happy to share any other details with you later too for listeners if they're
Excellent.
interested. I just thank you for your time.
Oh, thank you so much, Ashley. I really appreciate talking with you. And thank you, listeners, for listening. Hey, do you know anybody who's not at 100% optimal health? Anybody who feels like they could make some changes in their life? Why don't you forward this episode to them? I bet you could think of at least 5 people, right? Without even breaking a sweat. Forward this episode to them. They will thank you. All the people who love them and who are going to be happy that they lived a little longer will thank them, and we will thank you. So have a fantastic day and see you next week.
Thank you.